everyone, it's Jacqueline from Pixie Dust PhD. When you're purchasing your first Disney Vacation Club contract, a big decision you have to make right away is how many points do you want? You can buy DVC in a wide variety of points, anywhere from as little as 25 to many hundred. In today's video, we'll go over some considerations when deciding how many points to buy for your first DVC contract. When purchasing Disney Vacation Club, especially for the first time, there are three main considerations: your home resort, your use year, and how many points you should buy. The amount of points needed will vary for every travel party, and that will be a super personal decision. I won't be able to tell you exactly what's right for you and your travel party, but we'll talk about some financial considerations as well as your vacation style. Before we go over your key considerations for how many points you should buy for a DVC contract, note that if you're buying DVC directly through Disney and you want to be an official DVC member, there is a minimum amount of points for that. Right now, it's 100 points. But if you don't care about all of those membership extras, then no worries about that 100 point minimum. Choosing the number of points on your contract can be tricky because you want to have enough points to go on your desired vacation, but you don't want to have too many points so that you're overpaying for the contract. In my opinion, here are some main things you should consider. First, point charts at your home resort as well as Disney Vacation Club seasons. Each DVC resort has a point chart. This is the number of points it's required to stay per night at any given DVC villa. This point requirement, of course, increases with the size of the room, and also weekend nights cost more than weekday nights. In cases where the same size villa has different view selections, such as standard view, lake view, theme park view, or similar, the more desirable views will also cost more points per night. To complicate things further, Disney Vacation Club has seasons. So the same type of room, say a standard view one bedroom at the Beach Club villas, will not be the same amount of points for every Monday in a given year. It will change with the DVC seasons. In 2020, there are 5 DVC seasons. In order of cost from lowest to highest, there is Adventure Season, Choice Season, Dream Season, Magic Season, and Premier Season. In 2021, though, DVC is converting to 7 total seasons, and so far these are not named. All the seasons have specified travel dates. For example, the lowest cost season in the 2021 seasons is from September 1st through September 19th. The highest cost season includes peak spring break time as well as Christmas through New Year's Eve. So once you've decided on your preferred home resort, consult the home resort's point chart. And of course, your points are good at other resorts, although if you buy on the resale market, there are some restrictions to that. But I hope you're considering buying at the home resort where you want to stay at the most. If that's the case, it makes sense to plan the amount of points you'll need in your contract based off that home resort's point chart. Given the variability of the cost of a DVC vacation, that is, the amount of points you'll be spending per night at your resort, the next biggest consideration is when you vacation. If you go on vacation approximately the same time of year every year, this should be relatively straightforward to figure out. For example, if you plan on traveling with 2 other people and you're all comfortable staying in a 1-bedroom villa, knowing the size of accommodation you'll need for your yearly trip definitely helps narrow things down. And then if you know you can only travel during the summer, that also helps narrow things down. Now it's time to consult that point chart to look at the various seasons. Depending on what part of summer you'll want to travel in, that will dictate what season you're most likely to be vacationing during. For example, one of the 2021 seasons runs from June 11th through August 15th, which gives you about 2 months to travel during. If you think that traveling during this 2-month window will be feasible, now you know the size of accommodation you'll want as well as the season you'll be in. The last thing to consider when thinking about when you vacation is how long you want to vacation. Let's say you'd like to stay a full week. This gives you one more parameter to figure out how many points you would need per year on your DVC contract. For this example, a 1-bedroom villa at the Beach Club between June 11th and August 15th, you would need 260 points to cover a week-long trip. So you would want to buy a contract somewhere in that neighborhood. Instead, let's say you're the same travel party, you're 3 people comfortable staying in a 1-bedroom, and you want to go during the summer, but instead of going every year, you would rather go every other year. DVC makes this feasible by allowing you to bank your points from 1 year into the next use year. If you're planning on banking all of your points every other year, this means you may only need to purchase a contract with half of the amount of points you think you'll need for your desired vacation. If you're relying on banking your points, do remember to be careful about which use year you pick. If you want to use your DVC points to head down to Walt Disney World several times a year, be sure to take into account all of your desired trips. Maybe that's 1 big family trip per year with several weekend trips for just you. This, of course, will mean more points. But whatever you think your vacation habits currently are or will be once you own DVC, go ahead and plan out approximately how many points you think you'll need based on the seasons you'll be staying and the point chart at your home resort. Now, once you know essentially the number of points you'll need, you'll want to try to fine-tune that a little bit. This is essentially all opinion, and you'll find a lot of different advice. It tends to fall into 3 main buckets. See which of these resonates with you. Note that if you're buying directly through Disney, you can generally get the exact amount of points that you want. However, if you're buying on the resale market, you may need to be a little bit more flexible about the number of points on a given contract. You cannot buy only part of that contract, you would be buying the whole thing. Let's say you were hoping to buy a 140 point contract on the resale market. Instead, you may find that a lot of contracts are at 160 points. And so unlike buying directly through Disney, you may need to have some flexibility about the exact number of points in the contract you'd be buying. So as I mentioned before, there tend to be three main camps about fine-tuning the amount of points you should buy for your first contract. The first is buying the exact number of points that you've calculated out through this process. In our prior example, that's the travel party of 3 who want to stay in a 1-bedroom at the Beach Club Villas during that summer season that will need 260 points to stay for a whole week. This line of thought says buy a 260 point contract. The pros of this in theory are that you really are maximizing your contract and you'll be fully using it every year. You won't have anything wasted and you won't have anything left over. That being said, the point charts can change. While the number of points in a given resort is fixed, DVC can adjust the rate of a given villa for any resort. So what may cost you 260 points now, maybe 280 in the future, or even 240. DVC is designed to have maximum occupancy at all times, which occasionally means DVC adjusts the point charts to achieve this. The second school of thought is to buy slightly less points than you think you'll need. So in our example where you would need 260 points, maybe you're buying 220 or 240 instead. This is advantageous because you'll be paying less upfront for your initial purchase price, and you'll be paying less every year in annual dues. As long as your vacation habits don't change, you will almost certainly be using your full year's worth of points every year, and you won't need to worry about any of them expiring. If you choose this method, you will likely be relying on borrowing points from the next year. So if I have a 220 point contract, but I need 260 points to go on my vacation, I can use all 220 points from this year and then borrow 40 points from the next year. You can also combine borrowing your points with purchasing one-time use vacation points directly from Disney. This is capped at 24 points per year, and these one-time use points cannot be used for your 11-month home resort priority booking window. These one-time use points also are not transferable or bankable. The last school of thought is that you can buy more points than you think you'll need. So if I need 260 points, maybe I buy a 280 point contract or a 300 point contract. The obvious con of this is that you're paying more, both in your initial purchase price as well as every year in your annual dues. However, having extra points around certainly gives you the most flexibility. If your vacation habits don't change, you will not need to worry about running out of points for taking the vacation you desire. You probably will have to keep a close eye on that banking deadline though, based on your use year, in order to make sure that none of your points expire. These three schools of thought really come down to your personal finance situation as well as your personal philosophies. Would you rather pay more to have an excess of points knowing that you can bank them? Or would you rather have fewer points knowing that you can borrow points from the next use year? Or are you going to try to strike it somewhere in between? The next big consideration is availability. Some rooms are simply harder to book than others. When deciding how many points to buy in your contract, if you're basing that off of one of these high demand rooms, you may want to ensure that your contract has enough points in order to book a different type of room if needed. For example, standard view rooms cost the least amount of points per night of any view. Standard view rooms in every villa size at Bay Lake Tower are in incredibly high demand and may be tricky for you to snag, even with that 11-month priority booking window. Similarly, grand villas at the boardwalk, which are those 3-bedroom accommodations, can be very hard to book simply because there aren't very many of them. If you're calculating out the number of points you'll need for your DVC contract based on one of these high demand rooms, thinking you'll get it every year, year after year, you might end up feeling burned. My personal take on this is that I would like to have enough points to cover the room that I want at the view one level up from what I'm planning. For example, in 2020 adventure season, a standard view studio at Bay Lake Tower is 102 points per week. So if that's what I was planning to book, I would only need a 102 point contract. But because I know those rooms are very hard to book, I would probably want to have enough points on my yearly contract to cover the next view. In this case, that's a Bay Lake view, and that will cost 123 points per week. Personally, I would be looking for a contract that would be able to cover that upgraded view without having to borrow points from the next year. But that's really a reflection on my personal philosophy, and just trying to avoid situations that stress me out. There's a really fantastic forum thread that details the availability of high demand rooms, and I will leave that link in the description below. The last main consideration regards resale and overall flexibility. Note that if you ever plan to sell your contract, you cannot sell just a portion of your points. You must sell the entire contract. So if you're thinking about doing a larger contract, say 340 points, instead consider doing 2 contracts for 170 points each. If you're buying directly through Disney, this should not be a problem. If you're buying on the resale market, this can definitely be more challenging, and you'll want to pay close attention to the use year. While it's absolutely fine for you to have multiple use years, it certainly is easier if you're able to find contracts with matching use years. While I know many folks plan to keep their DVC contracts until they run out, or deed them down to someone else in your family, it is always nice to have this added flexibility. Just something to keep in mind if you are considering buying a rather large contract. Last is less of a consideration and more of a warning. For some people, being a DVC owner and having free accommodations, And while they aren't free because you had paid for them in your initial purchase price as well as every year in your annual dues, but it feels free because you don't get a bill at the end. This can translate to you going to Disney way more than you ever had previously. So even in your best attempt to decide how many points make sense for you to buy in your first Disney Vacation Club contract, you may find yourself going to Disney World way more than you used to and constantly running out of points. You can add on points, which we'll talk about in a future video, but ultimately this is just a warning that for some people you can really never have enough points. If you found this information helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos to the channel. My goal is to hit 100 subscribers by my birthday, which is in mid-July, so any interaction with this video is super helpful. 80% of my viewers aren't subscribed to the channel. If you find yourself coming back though and regularly watching my uploads, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing and continuing to tune in. If you want to chat outside of YouTube, find me on Twitter and Instagram at PixieDustPhD. How many points are you considering buying for your first Disney Vacation Club contract? If you already own DVC, let folks know what considerations went into the amount of points you decided to buy in the comments down below. I hope you're having a magical day, and we'll see you real soon at PixieDustPhD.